All right, guys, welcome to Go Get a Podcast, episode 13. And today I have Pararescue Jumper, which is a Air Force Special Operations Unit. And his name is Brian Silva, and I just want to appreciate him coming on here today. And today he's going to give us basically some knowledge about, what it takes to be a pararescue jumper, the kind of mindset that you need to get through all the training, and basically just like in general, just bringing awareness to the career field. It's something I'm sure he's very passionate about, and I'll just let him introduce himself a little bit.
What's up, everybody? Brian Silva here. Thanks for having me on the podcast here. Hopefully, I know you guys are motivated towards fitness and that kind of thing and making yourself better. Overall, I run a program called How to Be a PJ. You can check it out at howtobepj.com. And then I also do a separate podcast called the Ones Ready Podcast with a couple other special warfare guys in the Air Force. But our goal is pretty much the same as yours. And we're trying to motivate guys and get guys to realize that there's a lot of opportunities out there, and not only just within Air Force special warfare, but, in general, all of the info that we put out is geared towards those people that just want to better themselves and be around other people that are in the same mindset. So yeah, just a little bit about myself real quick. I joined the Air Force in 2005. And I joined to be a pararescueman, and there's pretty much no looking back. PJs in general, what really got me to want to be a PJ is, the mission of a pararescueman is to save lives and aid the injured, and to make sure that that person comes home alive, no matter where in the world they are, what kind of situation they're in, what kind of medical condition. PJs have the tools to rescue in the Arctic and the desert and the jungles, using planes, walking on foot, using vehicles, any means possible. Our motto is that others may live, and we stick by that because we're willing to risk our lives to make sure that the person that's on the other side of the call or the radio gets to come home and see their family again. And I think, a motto like that and a career field like that really spoke to me, because I wanted to make sure that I was contributing as much as I possibly could to the people that are defending our country. And obviously I joined a little bit after 9/11. So there's a lot of patriotism. Hopefully there still is today, but from those people, but I think it's lessened, and it's difficult, for people to remember exactly what the kind of situation that we're at and the wars that we've been fighting over the past almost 2 decades now. So I wanted to be able to help those people in need. And I saw pararescue, and I just, had to go for that, because no matter what the mission, it's always to help people. Unlike, other branches and stuff, you may think there's some politics involved or whatever. Like, all right, sure, there may be some also involved in there, but no matter what, if I'm going out there and I'm flying in a helicopter or driving in a vehicle, it's always to help out a person in need. So, I wanted to be along those lines and get the best training that I could possibly get. I honestly didn't know that it was going to be as difficult of a school as it was going to be, but yeah, I'm sure we'll get into that stuff later on. So that's kind of a little bit about me. I've been in a lot of different squadrons, team leader. I've been an instructor, and put people through selection, which is why I started the How to Be a PJ thing. And I really enjoy, just like you, helping people get motivated and make sure they reach their potential, and then push past that perception of what they thought they could do.
And that's like, when I first saw when I first even learned about the Pararescue Jumper program in Air Force Special Operations, I was just like, wow, like these are some badass guys. I'm just like, they do everything. Like, you guys jump out of planes, you guys are there for water. Like, you guys are literally just like all terrain essentially. And your main job is to go out and correct me if I'm wrong, of course, and go out and save people that got stranded behind enemy lines, or maybe people that got, fell, that kind of thing. So that's like the main priority?
Yeah. So main thing is we do combat search and rescue as well as regular civilian rescue. So, and then all the other operations in between. So, there are PJs on the Osama bin Laden raid. There are PJs on every major operation pretty much that has happened in all the theaters right now. So in conjunction with that, we also do the civilian rescues. So if you get stranded on a mountain somewhere and the regular civilians can't find you, they're going to send in the PJs to go in there and find you. and we have teams, and we've done rescues like that in Zion, on Mount Hood, in Alaska, just all over the place. Just like I said, we are trained the best, and we're the only dedicated search and rescue asset, combat search and rescue asset in the DoD to go in there and facilitate rescues anywhere in the world at any time. So we have people all over the world to go and pick up those guys or girls that are stranded, and we execute raids, and we do everything that you've seen in the military. Basically, we jump out of planes, we scuba dive, climb mountains, you name it, and we do it. We fix vehicles. Just our nickname is Jack of all trades, just because we have to have such a wide skill set. And even when we look at like our on-the-job training line items, we have over 300 line items that we have to keep up with in order to make sure that we are able to execute the job. We're not like Jack of all trades, master of none. We fit into that category. We're not specifically like a swiftwater rescue team or anything, but we can do just as good a job as any other out there. So,
And on top of all that training to be on all these terrains, you guys are all paramedics on top of that. And so you have to be paramedic in all of these different situations, right?
Exactly. Everything else is just a means to get there. And, what really matters is what happens on the X and when you go to treat the patient. As long as you do your job, if you don't do your job, they're not going to make it home alive. So everything else you did before that or after that is for nothing. And you just put yourself in danger if you're not taking care of the patient adequately and bringing them back home with honor. So yeah, paramedic certified. And we also do, we always say like paramedic plus, because we do the paramedic thing, nationally registered EMT paramedic. And then we also do the minor surgeries in the field, and depending on who your doc is out there, you can do more intensive type of surgeries and help out with anything, because when it's time to save a life, it's time to save a life.
Absolutely. So I know you said you were always kind of passionate about helping others in general, but what specifically made you find out about the pararescue career field, and how did you just get the whole process going? Like to start, did you go right out of high school? Did you take a few years to realize that you wanted to do this? So I'm just curious, how you found out about it, and then when you started executing the whole pipeline and going through the process.
Yeah. For all you guys out there that are thinking about anything special warfare related or military related, I say go to every single recruiter that's out there, because that's what I did. Make sure that you figure out what you really want to do, what kind of missions. Don't just go by the recruiter themselves, but also there's so much information out there between, podcasts like this and my podcast, and every other branch has something similar to it, at least, hopefully. But do your research and figure out what mission really speaks to you. Like I said, the mission of saving lives and that kind of thing, I felt like that was something I could do and I could believe in. If you want to go and do something else, like you just want to shoot people in the face or something like that, go and do the Ranger kind of thing, or do something along those lines. Just figure something out that really speaks to you in a community that speaks to you. For myself, I wanted to join because basically I went to college for 2 years and I didn't do anything worthwhile during that time. I was withdrawing from classes and I was just not feeling it. And I was just kind of like, man, I got to change my life, because all I was doing was partying and, going out with my friends that I was going out with in high school, and nothing was changing. And I was like, I'm almost 20 now and I got to do something different. So I went to the recruiters, and my uncle, who's in the Army, said, hey, you should join the Air Force. So went to the Air Force recruiter, and he wanted me to be a linguist. So I tried out for that. I didn't know anything about special operations. I wanted to do combat things, but I wanted to do something outside. I just didn't know what. He tried to sell me something that I'm sure he needed a slot for. I ended up luckily failing the language course on that.
Luckily.
And yeah. And then going for, he showed me a video of pararescue, and I was just hooked after that. It was just, jumping out of helicopters and just going down the hoist, doing all the fun looking stuff in the water. And I was like, man, I can get down with that. I said no to this.
I can sign up for
that. Yeah. I said no to the SEALs and the Rangers and all that. I just didn't like the vibe. I didn't like the thought of being stuck on a ship. I didn't like the thought of being, stuck in a tank or hanging around the Army. And my uncle said, don't be in the Army. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I won't be in the Army then. He's been in the military longer than me. I don't know anything about the military. Yeah. So, I ended up doing that. And I was just like, I honestly thought it was going to be easier than, Navy SEAL and 18 Delta training, but it's not, especially at the time. If you look at the percentage rates back then, 15 years ago when I joined, it was 90% washout rate for pararescue, and I don't know, somewhere between 50 and 70% for the SEALs and Green Berets. So it definitely wasn't easier.
Yeah. Because I've seen, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just because I've seen video. I told you before we started this. I've seen videos of the training, and I've just seen it, and I'm just like holy crap! Like, if a human being can endure this much pain, like I'd hope they're doing this job, because like you have to be like the most qualified person ever, and just be like so mentally tough to get through all that type of training. And I'll ask you more specific questions on like how your training was and stuff like that. But it's just like that. First of all, the length of the pipeline itself is pretty long. It's pretty lengthy, and you'll explain that in a second. But it's just like every single one just seems more challenging than the other, whether it's a mental aspect or a physical aspect. It's just like you're always being challenged. You never get comfortable. It seems like they described that in the documentary.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And we always have our motto when we're going through training is like, always wet, we're never dry. And that's pretty much what you said in a nutshell. Is just, you can think of that feeling of your clothes, you having full on long sleeve and pants and boots, and just always being wet and being chafed, and just feeling like you're hungry, you're tired, you're always just something hurts on you, especially when you wake up in the morning because you're super sore. But yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Just constant discomfort, but you push on because, again, that purpose that you joined in the first place.
Exactly. And so you said like when you were in college, though, you felt like you were wasting time, because I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, where they're like, maybe going the military route might give you more structure as opposed to just getting thrown into college and, just partying and all that stuff, just getting lost and whatever you're doing, basically not really focusing on the reason why you're there. And I feel like that happens to a lot of people. So what kind of snapped you into like, okay, you know what, I'm going to join the Air Force. And then of course you described like how you found out about the pararescue career field. But when were you like, all right, I need to make a change. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get more disciplined, all that stuff. Was there like a moment?
There were a couple moments that I had when I just felt like I need to do something with my life that is more than this. I was working at my jobs before I joined, where I was working at JCPenney's as one of the guys that folds clothes or whatever in the men's department. And I worked at Fazoli's, which is like a fast food Italian place. And then I ended up being a server or whatever after. But I was working 2 jobs at a time just because I've always liked working, and that's been part of my mindset since I've been younger, and I've always done sports and always just done something. And then I was in college, and there were a couple of times where I saw a baby that just stopped breathing in the middle of the store when I was at JCPenney's. Some of my family members were having medical emergencies, and I didn't know what to do, and I just didn't want to feel helpless anymore. And I felt like, I saw my friends, and they're just super content with what they were doing. They're just like, doing the same kind of jobs that I was doing, servers or, something like that. And they're just super content, and I could just see that they're going to be sitting around and doing that for the rest of their lives. And no offense to anybody that wants to do anything like that, but that's not what I wanted to do with my life. And I felt like I needed something to really just jumpstart me, and I needed to move away from the things that were keeping me the same as I was always going to be, because I could see my future of what it would have been if I would have just stayed in the same place the entire time. And I'm sure many of you guys that are out there right now listening to this, you could probably see what the future is going to be if you stay in that same town and you take the job that, your family members have taken, or that the rest of your friends are doing. And I was just not okay with that for myself. And I wanted to do something better with my life, or different with my life, and make sure that I could reach my potential, because I felt like I wasn't reaching it at all. And I needed to test myself and get a kick in the balls, basically.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people are just like one small decision away from like making a huge change. And whether that's like, with your career, like in your situation was your career. A lot of people are like, I'll work out, I'll start tomorrow, diet starts Monday, blah, 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 all this crap. But like, until you actually like start making the change, not talking about it, until you actually like initiate that change, like go do something to geared towards that, that you keep saying that you're going to do, nothing's going to happen. Right. And you could agree with me on that, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And I think another important part of that is the friends that you're hanging around, because, I had some girlfriends and friends that were like, why are you joining the military? Why do you want to leave us? Like, we have we're always having fun or whatever. You don't want to hang out with us anymore. And they get that sense of just like, no, you can't leave this circle. I'm going to suck you back into this whole thing that you're doing. And for those guys that are out there, or girls, just know that that's going to happen. And change, people are resistant to change, especially people who are, content with the life that they have, and they want to keep their friends, their surroundings, and they want to end up being, 60 years old and doing the same kind of thing. And I get emails like that all the time. So don't let yourself get put down by those people that want to stay the same. If they want to stay the same, they do their thing. You're not going to live anybody else's life but your own. Keep on doing what you want to do. Find something that motivates you and go after it.
Exactly. And like I said, it's just one small step away. So I kind of want you to describe what the pipeline is. And for people that don't know, the pipeline is basically just the training that you do to get to a certain point in the military career field. So if you want to go ahead and explain what type of schools did you go through, which ones did you feel like were the hardest, and what type of mindset do you need to keep in order to actually make it past this? Because like you said, it's like a 90% washout rate. So very, very few people even make it all the way to the end. So why don't you go ahead and describe that if you could?
Okay. The pipeline, like you said, is 2.5 years of a bunch of different schools that are backed up together. And it just means that once you're done with that 2.5 years, your base level, pretty much like not going to hurt yourself on a jump type of guy. You still have to be looked after. You still have to be trained a lot in order to be an effective pararescueman. But you have the prerequisite skills in order to, go to an actual unit. So that's 2.5 years long. And I just finished PA school. Also, it took 2.5 years. So I don't know if between that time you can get a master's degree, which I just got, or you can be a PJ. So one of those two. So 2.5 years, and it starts with, of course, basic training. And then you go into the selection portion. There's some other courses in between there that just get you ready, but the selection portion is the hardest part typically for everyone going through. So like I said, it was 90% washout rate in there. Out of a class of 120, I was one of 4 airmen that made it through the first time.
Wow.
Half the other people that were there were the officers. There's a total of 15 people that made it. The other ones were officers, the other one and prior service, and then washbacks from the last couple classes. There were guys back then that were washed back 3 or 4 times. So, so I was one of those guys that was able to make it through despite my lack of training. And honestly, I didn't think I was a tough guy or anything like that. There were a lot of people that I felt like were way tougher than I was when I was going through. They looked tougher, they acted tougher, and they did everything else. But at the end of the day, I think it was just that, I don't want to go home with my tail between my legs that made me want to keep on going. So the pipeline, after you're done with selection, that's one of the most difficult parts. And typically after you make it through selection, 90% of the people usually get to make it through, unless you do something dumb like get a DUI or, flip off the commander or something. I don't know. But, and then the hardest part, I guess the second hardest part was after that was dive school. We went to combat dive school. And back then you can look on, I think there's a National Geographic documentary about not the selection, but they talk about the hardest courses in the DoD, and they go over combat dive school. But it was like that. And it was just constantly I thought it was going to be a gentleman's course, but it was more like INDOC all over again and selection all over again. We had over half of our class that passed selection failed out of dive school.
Wow. Did they reclass, or did they just not stop the whole pipeline?
They got one more chance, and some of them made it through, some of them didn't, and they ended up getting reclassed or out of the military altogether just because they couldn't pass the dive school after. So I made it through. I wasn't one of those 50%. And kept on going went to SEER school, And at SEER school, they put you through the whole thing of, evasion, capture, and building huts, living out in the cold.
Mhm.
And I was from Arizona, so did not like going to SEER school just because I don't like the cold. Not because I
Mhm.
don't like the outdoors, but the cold has never been one of my favorite things. But
Gotcha.
yeah, we also go to airborne school in Fort Benning, Georgia, and then you go to free fall school, military free fall, which is one of the cool things because PJs get to do it. Your first couple of years in the military. Other guys that are like 18 deltas and stuff have to wait until they've been on the team for a while to get an advanced qualification like that. So
Mhm.
it's kind of weird being around, the crusty guys that have actually deployed and stuff. And they're like, oh, Air Force, you guys just showing up super young. I was like 20 years old or whatever, and they were almost 40. And they're,
Shit. I
obviously making
gotcha.
fun of me. I was like, okay, I'm not going to talk crap to you because you guys have obviously done more than I have
Mhm.
at that point. But, and then you go to the apprentice course, or you go to paramedic school, and the Air Force pays for it. All these schools, and you get to just, sit back, get the degrees, you get civilian certifications from most of these schools also.
Mhm.
So you build up, like I have a folder around here with like a ton of cards and certifications and certificates. So that was one of the other benefits of being a PJ. And then you go to the apprentice course, and that's the last thing, kind of puts everything together and just kind of sets the tone of what you need to focus on for your skills so you can do your job once you get to the unit. So
Mhm.
that's the pipeline in a nutshell.
I got you. I got you. So like clearly, like from what you're telling me and like from what I've seen on all these documentaries, um, you guys don't take like the strongest guys. You guys don't take the biggest guys. You guys take the people that are willing to go through all the pain through of these schools and the selection process in general. Because I feel like when I was watching it, I saw like one of the guys that probably had like the best like time or whatever on the run. He got washed out eventually, and he was like the athlete of the whole like squadron, I guess. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just like I was like, wow, like so it really doesn't matter. It's just like all mental toughness. If that's
Yeah, and the thing that you got to realize about that is it's just kind of like, I guess, picking your wife.
Mhm.
Looks are gonna fade, just like strength, just like
Yeah.
all the other things that come with people that you think are gonna be that look the part. But the thing that doesn't change is your personality, and that is really what we're looking for. We're
Mhm.
looking at a person and like who we're gonna spend the rest of our careers with. And you do the same thing when you're on team with these guys. Is like, maybe you don't think about it when you're doing it and you're that young, but looking back on it, that's what it is. I mean, all the memories that I have from those guys that were at selection with me and they quit or whatever, I remember all of those things. I remember the guys who peed in the pool all the time and pooped in the pool, or the guys that are always screaming and yelling because they are crying during selection. So all these things that we see, and I saw the same thing when I was an instructor. Everyone else is going to remember, and everyone else is going to know you by that thing, especially if they went through all that stuff with you, and you get a sense of, I guess, friendship and mentorship that you don't get anywhere else in the world because you're being put through so much stress day in and day out. Like, you're going to know everything about the person next to you, whether you like it or not. And in the end, it makes you not only strong as an individual, but it makes you into that person, and it brings out those things like I was talking about, your personality that you may not have known you had, because not a lot of people have been through anything that stressful or that difficult.
Mhm.
So your true personality really comes out, and you see what you're worth in those moments. And I think every single person on this planet should put themselves through something that is that difficult, that it really makes you dig down and think, like, am I really into this? Why am I doing this? Should I continue? Like,
Yeah.
bring you to that point where you want to quit.
I got you. Were there moments for you when you were like, this might not be worth it? Like, this is a lot of pain. I could easily just go home and just like, be comfortable, not do this career field, do something else. Like maybe this isn't for me. Like how many times did those doubts come to you, and how were you able to just tell yourself like, no, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this, like you're sticking with this, and you obviously stuck it out. So I'm just curious, like, because that I'm sure that's a lot of that's probably something that everyone wants an answer to, because especially going through the pain that you went through. So why don't you go ahead and describe like how you kind of overcame those obstacles, if you
Yeah,
had them?
I think that kind of started when I was playing football one time. I was in, I think it was fourth or fifth grade, and I ended up uh, signing up for football and ended up quitting that football because I was one of the smaller guys, and obviously everyone else was bigger than me, and I just felt uncomfortable doing it. And I remember how disappointed, I was in myself, and then my parents were in me for, stopping something that I signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the only time that happened, but aside from that, I had a couple other times that were just like, man, why am I doing this? Am I just going to waste my time, waste
Mm-hmm.
everyone's time, doing these, things that I might try and not like or something like that. So I kind of made a promise to myself, and it's the same thing whenever you go in for a workout. If you're going to start it, then you finish it. And that was my mentality kind of going into Indoc. I said that I was going to do it. I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to go back home and tell my friends after I had already told my friends that I was going to be a PJ and I wanted to do this job. And, I showed them videos of whatever things that they get to do. And I was like, all right, well, there's no going back now. And I think of that. The hardest time for me, it was, I guess, a couple day in, day out. The hardest time was waking up in the morning, because we had to wake up at 3:30 in the morning, shave. And this was after, we got off at 5, but we had extra duties to do. So we didn't go to bed until 9 or 10 every night for 10 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then we woke up at 3:30 every morning. So that was one of the hardest times, because that's just like when you wake up in the morning to go work out any other time. That's when like, all right, the rest of the day is going to start, and it's not going to be comfortable. And I'm going to go through all this stuff again. I may see one of my friends quit, and I may not see them again, because once they quit, they end up reclassing and we never get to see them. And it was just the same thing day in, day out, just constantly. Like, I know I'm going to almost pass out when I swim today, because we have a lot of underwater swimming, and people would pass out almost daily underwater. So doing all those things and knowing that was going to happen, that was difficult in the morning, just to wrap my head around and be like, all right, am I going to do this or am I not going to do this? And then when my team commander died, seventh week of Indoc, he was doing it underwater, and he ended up passing out underwater and not being able to be revived. I was just, taken back, like, all right, I guess I have to reevaluate. This guy just he gave his life for this career field and for this job. Is it worth that much to me? And I obviously continued through and finished it out. But after that, it's, same thing every single day. Think about it and thankful for, the things that he sacrificed, and that I was able to stick with it because of his example. It's like, if that guy can die for this thing. I didn't have any family or anything at that point. But he had kids and a wife and all that stuff. And he had another successful career as a pilot in the Air Force. But he gave all that stuff up so he could do this mission. So, and you have to find something that's like that for all you guys that are out there listening to this thing, whatever it is. You have to go 100% in and know that it's worth risking everything that you have in order to be successful at whatever you're going to do. Because you have to have that purpose driving you. If not, and you're just living that mediocre type of life and going half-assed on all the stuff, then you're just going to end up having that same kind of life, half-assed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the way, I'm sorry for your loss about your instructor, by the way. But I wanted to say that, so you didn't make your high school football team. Is that what you said, correct, in the beginning?
No, I started on a team, and I ended up quitting because I felt like I was just the smallest guy out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I guess you kind of kept that feeling and like remembered what it felt like to do that. And then you were like, I'm going to go through all this training and I'm going to prove to myself that I'm capable of doing anything.
Yeah. And once you finish a school or the pipeline like that, you literally, that's how you feel. Like it's really opening your mind and just freeing what you thought you could do. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast,
Mhm.
just pushing past those perceptions of your limits and what you thought you could do prior to joining.
Mhm. I got you. And in your opinion, what was the surprisingly most hardest school for you to go through, you think? In your honest opinion?
Mm, I don't know. I mean, I think the hardest one to go through was definitely NDOC by itself. But,
Mhm.
aside from that was dive school, just because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect from any of it, honestly, because like I said, I didn't know anybody that was in the military, like this deep in the military. My uncle was in security forces in the army, or as they call it, military police.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't know anything. I didn't really talk to him about, his deployments or any of that kind of stuff. I didn't know what combat dive school was or military free fall school or any of those things. I just thought you jump out of planes and you scuba dive.
Mhm. I
so
got you. I got you.
so everything was like new to me when I showed up, and I had no idea Indoc was going to have so much water stuff involved in it. I knew they were going to swim because I saw, I read That Others May Live, a book by Jack Brem, and then the Perfect Storm movie, which had a lot of swimming in it. So I was like, all right, I want to be good at swimming and make sure that at least I have
Mhm.
that down.
Mhm. I got you.
But all of it, just hit me in the face. I was taking it one day at a time sometimes, and then, one course at a time.
Mhm. I got you. And I feel like a lot of people, when they picture a goal, they think too far ahead, and they think like they get up one day and they're like, damn, I got to do this for like 5 more weeks or 10 more weeks. And I'm sure like that went through your head sometimes when you woke up in the morning, like you said. Um, but at that point, you just gotta, like you said, like I feel like taking it day by day is the best way to do it. Cause then you just like don't overthink it. You're just like, you know what? Like I'm gonna focus on this task, then I'm gonna focus on that task. I'm gonna focus on that task.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things you can do, and there are times when you have to focus on it minute by minute, and just get to that next point. Like, some rucks you go on, they would make us go on, and it was just like, all right, you're just going to keep on rucking to this point, and then you're going to turn around, you're going to go to this point, and just keep on going point to point. And you're like, I have no idea how long this is or when it's going to end, because they just keep on giving me different points, and just got to keep on going. And, in those instances, I would ask, when I was an instructor, I would say to any of the students, like, how long can you ruck for with 45 pounds on your back? And they would say 1 mile, 2 miles. I could do it in 3 miles in under 10 minutes.
Mhm.
And I was like, I don't care about any of that stuff. How long can you ruck for? And then they'd say, I don't know what you mean, Sergeant. And then I'd say, you can ruck for as long as you need to ruck. That's it. I mean, the mission is what it is. And you don't have the luxury of always planning out like you have 1 mile left. There's not going to be a GPS or a Siri in your ear that's saying only 30 minutes until you can stop.
Yeah.
Like, it's go and finish the mission. That's it. So you have to have that mindset of like, sometimes it doesn't matter when it's going to end. I'll just stare at this next tree that's in the distance right here, and I'll go to that tree, and then I'll look for another one, and then I'll go to that tree, and I'll just keep on pushing over and over again. Or if you're in the gym and you're working out, it's the same thing. Like I'm really tired right now, and you're only halfway through your set, and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to finish this thing.
Mhm.
You just look at that next exercise, do that next exercise, and then same thing over and over again. Before you know it, the time's going to pass, and it's going to pass anyway, whether or not you're lazy or you actually do the workout. So might as well just do the workout and get things done.
Even if it's just like going through the motions, even if you're mentally not there, just get through the pain. Because I feel like that feeling afterwards, whether it's like after you pass a school or after you pass a workout or after you do something that you like really know that you really just did not want to do in that moment, just that sense of accomplishment becomes bigger as the more you didn't want to do it previously. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's a huge thing for yourself and for those that are around you, because if you're a person that's like, hey, I'm going to go work out after work, and then you check in with your friends the next day and you're like, how's that workout? You're like, I ended up skipping out on it because I wanted to eat some tacos, or I don't know, whatever.
Mhm. Yeah.
It sets that feeling for like, are they going to be able to trust the things that you say?
Mhm.
And do you keep your word whenever you do things and say things? And internally you're like, man, I'm really getting fat. I need to start doing things. But then every time I work out, it's hard. I'm like, maybe I'll just stay fat. Like, it's just
Yeah.
that cycle of like, you're going to get over yourself and just do the workout, or you're going to sit there and keep on getting in your own head.
Mhm. And what do you think happens to the people that end up not making it? Like, what do you think finally gets in their mind? Like, what trigger is it, you think, that just causes people to just like, like, this is it, like, that's it? Like, what do you think went wrong, you think?
There are a lot of different reasons for that.
Mhm.
Mostly when you're an older guy, like 30s or up there with a family and stuff, you think about your family, you think about the things that you could go back to. That's why I always say burn the boats. That's, on the BFPJ,
Yeah.
all over the place and stuff. It's just a way to think about not quitting and going all in 100%. People have these reservations in their mind. They're like, well, I don't really have to do this thing. I don't have to go through this thing. I could just go back to what I was doing and work for my dad's construction company. I'll make enough money and, I can live whatever comfortable life doing those things. So leaving that lifeboat or that out in order to have something to go back to and fall back on, really, I think, is what causes a lot of people to be able to get out, because they think like, I could just go and reclass. The Air Force is a good gig anyway. It's not a big deal. If I quit, no one else is going to really care except for me. And they don't think about all these things at that point. But they're probably thinking them the night before they quit. And then they go underwater and they feel that need to breathe, and your heart's racing and the instructors are yelling at you, and you just want to breathe and you want to get out of there, and you have a free ticket. All you have to do is say, "Hoo-yah, I quit," and then go blow that horn.
Mhm.
Sometimes we even offer donuts if you're American.
Oh, shit.
But you just get in your head that one little piece of time, because you're choking on snots, choking on water, and you just stand up. You say, "I quit." And they're like, "All right, that's game over." As soon as anybody hears you say that, it's game over. I go from being mean instructor mode to like, "All right, no problem. Go sign your stuff and, just be like a normal person." It's game off at that point. And we just treat you like normal. But honestly, those guys that quit, they end up being successful in the other things that they do, because they see, they get to know themselves. Just like I was talking about, you put yourself into the fire and you get to figure out, how you work and what situations you work best in. And if pararescue was not for them, then they're still going to work somewhere else. And they're hard workers, obviously, because they got there and they're willing to put in at least a little bit of work to be able to get to that point, which most people are not willing to do. So they end up being successful. And even later in life, there are lots of guys who come back and try for a second or third time to do the job, because that feeling of, I need to get things done, never stops. You always think about it over and over again, the things that you may or may not have failed, or the things that you still think you can do. So
I got you.
Make it count the first time.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed you were saying like, like if there's like an older guy, maybe he starts thinking about like, I can go back home. And anyone in general is like, I could go back and just do this job, or like, have another job in the Air Force, whatever it is. So would it be fair to describe that maybe comfort kind of creeps into their mind, like, and that what they're doing isn't comfortable? So when you're like, holding your breath for like a minute, 2 minutes underwater, you're like, it could be nice to just be on my couch right now, and I don't have to do this tomorrow, and I don't have to do this the next day. So what I'm basically asking is, you think it's fair to say that comfort just like slips in there and kind of just instills in there, and that's how they go ring that bell and basically just say, I'm done with this?
Oh yeah, we try to make comfort slip in there. We try to make people think like, oh, you could just, like, if we're on a long ruck or something, we have an instructor driving a truck, we have donuts in the truck. We're like, hey guys, we have blankets, we have donuts, we have water, we have anything that you guys want. All you need to do is say, I quit. And you can sit in this truck, you can watch the rest of your team as they're going through and just suffering, and you could be comfortable. You can sign your papers right now, you can go straight to bed. All you need to do is just say, I quit. And we want those guys to refuse the comfort, because in part of our creed, we say before personal desires and comforts, because you're going to find yourself in positions outside training in the real world where like I hate being in the cold. But I found myself lots of times flying in a helicopter where I was just freezing my balls off and we were searching for a patient or whatever we were doing. I was looking through every G's and scanning. So we had to have the doors open or whatever in the helicopter. And there are a lot of times it's just like, man, I know this is going to suck, but I just have to do this because my life, the patient's life, all the other air crew's life that's around me is depending on this. So it goes back to that whole thing. Like, are you willing to get rid of those things that are comfortable in order to make the mission successful and to bring people home alive? So what's more important right now? And I think that's a lot of things with, people that survive or don't survive out in the wilderness. Did you curl up into a little ball and stop so you can be comfortable and then you end up dying? Or did you just keep on pushing on and, chopping down wood, staying up for 72 hours to make sure that you made it out of there alive?
I gotcha. So comfort really in general, first of all, you guys tempt people with the comfort so that they can, they're like, oh, this looks really good. Like, you don't have to keep doing this. But like, basically, like, it's just like, it's a killer. Comfort's the killer in a sense, especially with these training camps and especially with the job in general. Once you get up there, it's like, like you're not going to be comfortable. Like,
Yeah. Once you get complacent, complacency kills. You've heard that, I'm sure, a bunch of times before, but it's the same thing with comfort. And it's the same thing with settling, like I said in the beginning, for what you had. You can be comfortable in the life that you had before the military. Working, I could have been a server, with the rest of my life. There are people that do that are my age, and it wouldn't have been a big deal. And of course, I wouldn't knock anybody for doing anything that they love. If you love doing it, then do it. But I didn't love doing that. And I could have stayed comfortable doing that, but I didn't want to stay comfortable in what I'm doing. You should always continue pushing yourself and not feeling like you're comfortable. I mean, even now, today, as I'm doing all these things, I have been up since 5:30 in the morning and it's 8:30 right now. And I haven't stopped doing anything. I've worked all day treating patients. And then now I'm doing this thing, taking care of kids, running the businesses, all this stuff. So it's a constant expansion of your growth. And as you go on through time, you just learn how to deal with more. You don't really get tougher. You don't do anything like that. It's not like I'm a wizard and I have more time in the day. It's just that you get okay with doing more things and you learn what is important and what's not important to get spun up about.
So basically I think what you're saying is like all the experiences you've had being a PJ has basically shaped you to have like a big workload now and actually deal with it, handle stress in stressful environments, and like just like being able to handle situations much better, it seems like, as opposed to if you weren't to go through all that training and your instructors like didn't put all that stress on you, like you would, it basically just shaped you better. I think is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it helped me by putting me through those stressful situations. And like I said, just mentally examining who I am. And you do it like one time in the pipeline. And then as you keep on going on, there are other moments in your life where you're just kind of like, man, that was really tough. Like you just need that gut check over and over again. I told you I just finished PA school.
Yeah.
And that was a 2.5 year just grind. I went from having no degree to having a master's degree in 2.5 years. So it's just that constant, like, I need to be better. I need to make sure that I provide for my kids, and make sure that I make as much of an impact on the world as I can, because we have no idea how much time we really have. And if we spend it sitting on the couch, or at least the most of it sitting on the couch and watching TV, then we will have impacted nobody's lives and no one will know that we were ever around or the things that we did. So, I think it's really important to just, figure out who you are and then push for the things that you're decent at. And I was terrible at public speaking, which I don't claim to be, great at public speaking now or anything, but I'm comfortable enough to talk to, thousands of people that are out there right now listening. And even on my other podcast, and tell you my experiences, because I've lived it and there's nothing here that's shady. I'm not making anything up. These are my true feelings and that's it. And it's good to be able to have that from the experiences that I go through, and not just like, a degree or from watching television or anything like that. This is all my life.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome too. Can you possibly give some good advice to someone that's looking into being a pararescue jumper? Just like, you know, maybe things that you wish you did differently, maybe things that you wish you focused on more before you even went to INDOC. Because I have a personal friend who is interested in the field, and he specifically asked, like, what can you do to best prepare, even though you can't like really prepare fully, I'm sure, for what is going to come, but like, you know, what are some good strategies or some things that you wish you focus more on?
Yeah, I definitely wish that I would have done more underwater type of stuff, and I tried swimming with a OCP top is now what it's called, but back then it was a BDU top and bottoms, and being able to just feel what that's like, and you know, freestyle stroke, all that kind of stuff underwater, just feel what it's like, because that is what really threw me for a loop when I first did any of the underwater type of training, because you try and take a stroke like this and you can't go anywhere. It's just like, holy crap, I'm just going to be stuck underwater until I pass out, I guess. Because so you know, focus on that. And that's also one of the reasons why I started beapj.com, is because I had no resources to go out there and look at. So, you know, go to the website, find a training partner. I really wish I would have found a training partner and someone to keep me accountable. Not that I wasn't working out every day, but I didn't know where I was in relation to other people on my team and other people that were joining the military in general, honestly, because I didn't meet anybody until I went to MEPS. So if I would have been able to just compare myself against, like, you know, how good I'm doing on the past versus how everyone else is doing in the past, because you know, you have to have that competitive spirit, and you don't want to be the guy that is on the bottom tier of where you're at on your tests.
Yeah.
So training with guys, and again, on beapj.com, there's the Cone Connect, where you guys can find other people that are training in your area. It's like an interactive map. It's free. All this stuff is free, aside from the workouts, which I created to do the same thing. Also, guys were getting injured, and I didn't want guys to go there without knowing what to be prepared for. So that's why I made the workouts, and I tested them all, I guess, on the students that were waiting training to go into that next course. So that's how I kind of, you know, got the best formula to get guys push-ups up and pull-ups up and make sure that they're able to be successful. And then, you know, lastly, I didn't talk to anybody that was ever a PJ. So I've answered every single email that I've ever received in my How to Be a PJ and Instagram. So I make sure that, you know, we're accessible to you guys that are out there that may be interested in any of this stuff. If you want to know anything, you can always reach out. Brian at howtobeapj.com. And then on Instagram, how to be a PJ, or the One's Ready account if you're interested in combat control or any of that kind of stuff. So I wanted people to be able to access. I have videos and stuff that talk about this kind of thing, mindset and all that, out there on YouTube. And I wanted to make that available. So, you know, those are the biggest things: is training with a partner, make sure you do a decent amount of underwater stuff, and go out there and research, because there's no excuse to want to go do something now and not know anything about it. You can watch YouTube videos on anything now. If you want to be a mechanic and you're in mechanic school, you can go look it up. When I was going through PA school, I watched a ton of YouTube videos. You know, figure out something that works for you, and then learn about it. Read books. I mean, there's a lot of books that I wish I would have read prior to join also, you know, not just military related books, but just mindset books in general, which I also have, you know, all these things that I'm talking about. I have all that stuff on beapj.com. So book lists, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
I'll make sure to link, by the way, like everything that you're talking about, I'll make sure to link it in the description so everyone can see it. Because like, even though like I am an online coach, I would, if you're going for this career field, obviously follow his workout advice, because he knows way more about all the training that they do. So focus more specifically on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I have done a little bit of other training, I guess it's on the side, but, you know, it's not focused on what you look like. It's focused on the specific functional abilities that you're going to have in order to be successful at selection. So that's more what this training is like.
That's what I think. I'm sure if I did it, it would be a complete challenge for me, probably just because of all the push up, all the calisthenics. Because you even have underwater holds on that training program, right? Like stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of underwater events that I put on the training program just for that reason. And there's,
Mhm.
in the one of the programs, it's just a month of just being in the pool, doing a ton of underwater, breath holding, snorkel type of stuff. And I think that is really important to just get used to the water and be confident in the water, because that exercise is called water confidence. So
Mhm.
that's
Gotcha. And if you don't mind me asking, what is a typical day in the life of a pararescue jumper? Like, like once you get in, you finish the entire pipeline, you finish the apprenticeship. What's like a typical day? Let's say you're not even on deployment. Let's just say like training in the States.
yeah, that was one of my favorite things about being a PJ is
Mhm.
just every single day is different. Monday, you're setting up for medicine or something like that. You're going to do some trauma lanes with the IDMTs or the docs. And then Tuesday, you're going to go out, you're going to go shoot. Wednesday, you're going to go jump, or you go TDY to go jump in Hawaii, or you go jump in wherever and get a bunch knocked out. In California, we used to go to Paris, California a lot. And then the next week you're doing diving training in wherever. When I was stationed in England, we'd go up to Scotland and go diving. We'd throw jet skis out of the back of a airplane, a C-130,
That's
and
sick. That's
and
awesome.
jump in after them. Just ride our jet skis around the bay, and then we'd go sing karaoke at night. Just part of the team life
Yeah.
is you're just going with your guys, your best friends, and you're gonna go to wherever. And when I was in England, it was like that, not only in Scotland but all over Europe. We did the same kind of stuff, training with every different, you name it, type of team that was special operations in Europe, from Poland to the Netherlands to Lithuania, just everywhere in between, and being able to just do different things and try and perfect your skills in everything that you do. So it was a ton of fun, and you get to ride every single not only watercraft but like ATVs and anything that you could pretty much imagine. We got our hands on and got to do. So it's just constantly something different and constantly testing yourself and just having fun. It's a blast to be able to do that kind of stuff.
If you don't mind me asking, what was a fairly intense situation for you on the job? Like, was there a moment where it was like super, I'm sure it's super stressful all the time, but like, was there one where it was like, wow, like this is a lot to handle right now? It's just, if there was any story like that you have.
I mean, there are a lot of times, and
Mhm.
realistically, it all goes back to getting that patient and your team back home alive. And a lot of times when we're on the ground or picking up a patient, you have a lot of people talking in your ears that have one radio here, another radio here, and I'd have to switch between channels to talk to the aircraft and the team and just everybody to make sure that everyone's on the same page, especially as the team leader. And sometimes it got difficult to be responsible for the patient and be responsible for the other guys, because you're pointing out this guy. California, or where you at?
I'm in Long Island, New York, actually.
Oh, okay, so you're totally all right.
Yeah,
You just have
yeah,
California haircut.
yeah. It looks like it, right?
Yeah.
um, uh, but you were just, yeah, you know what? I'll ask you another question, because you were kind of just explaining how, like basically you guys as a unit or a team, and how there's people who are communicating with the
Yeah, so
helicopters. Yeah, so you can continue if you want. Mhm.
yeah, so huge stressors is like, when there are just so many things going on at the same time and you have to be dependent on your team. When I was a team leader, we'd be in situations where, there's a patient with 30% burns or something like that, and we have to take them onto the aircraft. The aircraft is trying to take off and do all of its stuff that has to be done. And we have to get the patient loaded and prepped to go and make sure that they are able to, uh, you know, be safe while we're in flight and strapped in and all that kind of stuff, along with our gear, whatever we rode out on. We drove up into the aircraft and took away. So we have to make sure that all these moving pieces are just in place and keeping these guys alive. Make sure we have accountability. If the aircraft is, getting shot at or something like that, then we have to think about those things and, the next step and what we should be doing to make sure that our team is safe and if fire back if necessary. Those kinds of things is just like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously not out of a fixed wing aircraft for you guys that are thinking about that. Talking about like out of a rotary wing aircraft and that
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff, we do try and, if we need to, get on the gun as PJs. If the air crew is taking care of a hoist or something like that, we need to take the place because we have another person in the aircraft, and we want to get those guns up. So, there's has been a couple times that were like that, and we as PJs are responsible overall for what happens on that X, whether or not we do our job. That person is not going to come home and see their family. So, or we're not going to come home. So, all these things are just huge stressors. So we try and, throughout our training, stress ourselves out and make sure that we make the right decisions, because as long as you think um, effectively and are able to compartmentalize what's going on to make the right decision, then, typically you'll make at least 80% correct decision and keep on going with it. But it's the same thing like when I was in training, you take it minute by minute and task by task and figure out, okay, what's the next biggest thing? What's the next biggest thing that I need to focus on? And just, eat away at it like that. And the time's going to pass. Eventually, you'll have made a lot of decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully most of them were right. Some of them will be wrong, but at least you made the decisions and you kept on moving on with your life.
Mm-hmm.
Deal with the rest of it later.
So in order for it to basically be as less stressful as possible, you approach it as basically any situation you would approach step by step. If it was like training day by day, if it's treating a patient, I don't know what the exact procedures are, but I'm sure you go, okay, this one's done, that's done, assess, or the next step now, basically.
Yeah, nobody rises to the level of the situation. Everyone falls back to the level of their training. So if you hadn't trained well enough, then you're going to perform like that. And I think that's an important thing to put in is preparation. It's just like when you go to selection, did you prepare for it or not? Because if you didn't, then you're going to fail because you're going to fall back on the same thing, those same thoughts of like, oh, I want to stop during my run, or, it's been a mile, I stop every mile or something like that. You're going to fall back to the same thing. You're not going to rise to the occasion.
I gotcha. And what would you say are 5 traits that best describe a pararescue jumper, you think?
5 traits. Let's see. All right. Well, you got to have good hair, first of all.
I saw that episode.
Yeah. No, you gotta be mostly a person who is more relaxed and kick back kind of guy. Like everyone always compares PJs to the surfer mentality. I think, for the most part, we try and stay relaxed because we've been in those, like I said, so many times, we've been in stressful situations, and we know the times that we can just chill out and the times that we have to be like, all right, it's time to turn it up. Let's go into like operational mode here. So, we try to live our lives in the more chill out type of scenario. Putting the team first is a huge thing. You're bred from that from the beginning. And, PJs are one of the only special warfare people out there that have team leaders, combat control, which is another one, and special reconnaissance. They don't have team leaders. Only PJs have team leaders because we can't do it all by ourselves. We have to have a team in order to rescue these guys or girls that are out there. And I think that is huge. So putting the team first and having that team mentality, and then never quit type of attitude. That's, same thing that goes along with burning the boats is like, all right, we set out on this mission. We're going to go and do our best on this mission because we want to bring this person home. And that's all there is to it. We started it, we're going to finish it. And then the other things are just being tough and stoic about it. Nobody wants to hear anybody crying and whining about how uncomfortable they are and how, tough whatever training is to go through. You kind of suck it up and do your job and make sure that everyone else is doing the same. That's what's really expected of you. Because if you look at a person that's going to be rescued, you don't want to be that guy that's freaking out as you're trying to rescue a person. because they're going to do the same thing. If you're trying to rescue them, they're going to freak out, and then they're going to compromise you or compromise themselves. So you don't want to do any of those things. And then the last thing is, I think, the ability to think on their feet, just the creativity and problem solving is one of the biggest things, because like I said, sometimes you get a call or whatever, you show up and nothing is like what it's supposed to be. And you're just like, oh crap, I need to take a second, think about this and figure out what the most important thing to do is in this situation. And then you fall back to your training off of that. So I think, just creative problem solving is one of the biggest things, not only in pararescue, but in special operations in general. Like that is an absolute must for all those people out there.
And I think one thing that you may have left out that I feel like everyone on the One's Ready podcast, at least, everyone is super humble. Like no one is like, hey, like I do this, or like, like I'm jump out of planes, whatever. Like you guys are just like, like this is what we do. This is how you guys can get there if you guys want. But I'm saying like, there's no real like bragging or anything like that. Like you guys are all super humble people, and that I really respect that because of the jobs that you guys have. Like someone could easily just like not be humble in a situation like that, but the fact that you have to keep that, I think that's an awesome trait that maybe you was an unsaid kind of.
Well, you gave me 5, and I was
Yeah.
first 5 that came to my head.
Yeah.
For all those people that were, that doesn't come until later on when you
Mm-hmm.
have done any job for a while. I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know. There probably are humble astronauts out there, but but after you've done the job for a while, you're just like, well, it's a job that I did and am doing, and I'm glad to have earned and appreciated for all the things that the opportunities, like I was telling you guys about, have afforded me throughout my life, and the mindset that it's given me. And I want other people to feel that same thing, just that content of, not content like you're not going to keep on trying with your life, but content like with the things that you've done in the past. And, if you were to die today or something like that, then, you've done the best that you could with the time that you had. So I think that's an important feeling for anybody to have. And I feel lucky to be able to feel mostly like that when I'm 35 right now. So, but I think, that's one of the best things that we can do is impart that information onto those people that want to keep on doing or want to follow in our footsteps, or, create their own story and make stuff happen for themselves. So,
Absolutely.
I
kind of wanted to, this is probably going to be the last question because you've been on here for a while, and I'm sure you have a lot of things to take care of at this point. So you say that you went through PA school already. So I kind of want you to kind of just describe some of the benefits that maybe some people don't know about. Maybe like general military benefits afterwards. What opportunities were you able to get after being a PJ for so-and-so years?
Yeah. So I think I'm still in the military, and
Oh, you're still in? Okay.
Yeah. But the military paid for me to go to school and get my master's degree and get my physician assistant's license. So I'm a certified physician assistant, nationally registered and all that stuff through the military. Didn't pay a single dime. They paid me to do it. And I think, I didn't have a super crazy GPA or anything. I'm not like a brainiac or any of that kind of stuff. They hired me because of my experiences that I've had in the past, the patients that I've treated, the people that I've worked with, and the mindset that pararescue brings out in a person. And that is, get the job done. They knew that I wasn't going to fail out of PA school. There were still, a decent amount of people that fail out of PA school, believe it or not, because our grades, we have to get above a 75 on everything overall. So, being able to do that and having the military pay for that for me, and then just send me all over the world to travel, like I was talking about in England, was, something that most people don't ever get to do. And I talk to other PAs that are civilians, and they're just like, yeah, I'm swimming in debt. I'm never going to get these loans paid off. I'm just like, they upgraded all my stuff. And like, this is a super lucky opportunity for me to be able to do these things and not have any debt, and, be able to, raise my kids and set the example. So the military is what you make of it. There are a lot of people that talk bad about it. They're like, you don't need to do that. You need to go to a college and you need to make yourself better. But I know a lot of people in college that have gone through college and they have their doctorates and they're not nearly as, successful as I am. Not saying that like I'm wildly successful or anything,
Mhm.
but I'm running a couple businesses. I have my master's degree. I have kids. I
Mhm.
have, another career is in special operations. So I, just attribute that to just hard work, just constantly, like I mentioned earlier, when I was younger, is just, that's what I want to do. I want to work and I want to make all my hours count that I have here. So,
Mhm.
um, I think the military gives you that opportunity to do that and be, whatever things that you want to be. And they have tons and tons of resources and not only just financially, but mentorship also, and people that you can reach out to at any time. I'm sure there are lots of other people that would want to help people get into the military, into their specific jobs, and because they're appreciative for what they've been given. So we want to give back to those people that want to do the same thing.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I feel like one thing that people will definitely never fully feel, like besides the success and like the financial success that you have, but probably just like the self-fulfillment that you have from being in your career field, just being able to actually save lives like that. Like no one, anyone that's like working any job or that's successful at any job, they're not going to have that type of fulfillment because like you knew that you wanted to do that, and the fact that you were able to live out that dream, no one really can like live out that fulfillment. Like they have to go fulfill what they actually want to do, and you were able to do that. So that's another version of success that you have, I feel.
Well, I appreciate that. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I didn't, I didn't know what that was going to feel like. I didn't have anybody that told me like, hey, don't quit this because at the end of it, it's really going to be worth it. And they
Mm-hmm.
didn't say it in like a way, the instructors are like, you piece of crap, you're never going to
Mm-hmm.
make it, all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And I didn't know it was at the end of the tunnel,
Mm-hmm.
which, I don't know, looking back, if it was a good thing or a bad thing to not know
Mm-hmm.
that, but it is what it is. And now that I'm be able to look back at it, thankfully, um, it was definitely worth it. And the harder times that you go through, and you're able to safely put yourself through, then the more grateful you're going to be at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
When you're older, and if you do have kids, then you get
Mm-hmm.
to tell them of all the things that you did and show pictures and be nerdy and do all that stuff with your kids, and hopefully they do better than whatever I got to do. So
That's awesome too. I'm definitely trying to live like a fulfilled life 100%. I'm not, I told you before, I'm not trying to be a pararescue jumper though. Just because I have tried to do medicine, like at my school, I tried to be like a first responder, but I just realized it just wasn't my thing. But right now I'm currently trying to pursue being a naval pilot. So that's in the process. So hopefully I can have stories like maybe not exactly the stories that you have, but like,
yeah,
like something to say, I did this. So I'm looking forward to like that part in my life. And I just feel like a lot of people are just like scared. And I'm just like, like at this point, like I just got to do what feels right for me right now. And I just feel like I need to accomplish like something bigger than myself.
yeah. If you're living in your comfort zone right now and you're in your 20s or you're even in your teens, then you're not living up to your potential. You
Hmm.
need to feel scared about the next day, like,
Hmm.
oh crap, I'm going to need to perform.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to need to do this test. I'm going to need to wake up and whatever. Like, push yourself and make yourself better, because the more you do that now, it's just like, investing or whatever, and monetary investing. You do it when you're younger, then everything will come a lot easier and in more of a fulfilling way once you get older. So
Hmm.
just make sure that you're investing in yourself and try out everything that you can. Figure out something that you like.
Awesome. And I think honestly, that is a perfect closing point for the podcast. Brian, I just want to say thank you for coming on here. Thank you for taking the time to explain to people what exactly your career field is, what it entails, what type of person can get through this rigorous training, and the type of person that can get through basically just doing the job in general. So I just want to thank you again for that. And I'll link everything that you were talking about in the description. And yeah, I just want to say thank you again for hopping on here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on here. And for all you guys that are listening out there, you can always reach me at brian@howtobepj.com, or just be at pj.com. You can go in and check out all the resources that are on there, and then listen to the One's Ready podcast. Also, like I said, it was a team of combat controllers, a special reconnaissance guy, and then another PJ, and of course myself, that just talk about these things in life that general principles that we've learned over our years and, missions. We have over 70 years of experience in special operations. So we like to share and help out guys and girls that are trying to help themselves and make sure that, we can help show you the way as much as possible. But obviously there's a lot of work that's going to have to be put in on your end. So we realize that, and we want to make sure the mental game is there and as strong as possible.
Mm-hmm. All right. Awesome, Brian. Thank you so much again, man. I'm going to stop the record button or hit the stop record.